2026 Mazda CX-90. It's a family SUV like no other, so in this video I'll talk exactly what this thing is from a technical standpoint, how I feel about the interior space, and obviously what it's like to drive it. So let's talk about the CX-90. Now, when Mazda debuted the CX-90 a couple of years ago, it was a pretty big deal. Rear-wheel drive architecture, inline six-cylinder engines, and a very attractive styling inside and out. What Mazda was trying to do is to bridge that gap between mainstream and premium, but at the time I wasn't sure if it really worked. I drove the CX-90 and its twin brother, the CX-70, and I had some issues with them. First of all, the powertrain felt unrefined, the ride quality was pretty harsh, and I had some software-related problems. So let's see if after all those years Mazda addressed those problems, but first let's talk about some technical stuff and what this thing is exactly. So, as I mentioned, it sits on a rear-wheel drive architecture, which is pretty uncommon in the segment of mainstream SUVs, and the only other two vehicles that I can think of that also use this type of architecture are a Ford Explorer and a Jeep Grand Cherokee. But let's focus on the CX-90 today. Mazda calls this an electrified platform, but that doesn't mean it's fully electric. We have a choice of mild hybrid and plug-in hybrid variants, no BEV models. Now, mild hybrids always have a 3.3-liter turbo inline-six and a small electric motor which sits between the engine and the transmission, mainly to give you extra boost and provide engine shut-off when you coast. And the engine obviously is also going to turn itself off when you come to a stop. The standard output version of the 3.3 has 280 horsepower. The high output that we have today makes 340 horses. Then we have a plug-in hybrid, which has a total of 323 horsepower. It uses a naturally aspirated four-cylinder and a 17.8 kilowatt-hour battery pack, which gives us around 26 miles of electric range. Now, no matter which variant we choose, we always have an 8-speed automatic on board and a rear-biased all-wheel drive system with an open diff. As of suspension, it's a double wishbone front, multi-link setup in the back, combined with non-adaptive passive dampers, and while from a maintenance perspective, passive dampers are better, they're just cheaper if you have to replace them, I have to say that the CX-90 would highly benefit from adaptive dampers because the suspension is on a stiffer side, which you may appreciate if you like driving dynamically in your 5,000-pound SUV, but the ride quality is pretty firm. Same applies to a rather slow steering rack, which isn't for everyone, but we'll talk about it when we get to the driving impressions. Let's talk about pricing. In case of a six-cylinder, it starts at around $40,000 for the base Turbo Select model and tops at around 60 grand for the tested Turbo S Premium Plus. The PHEV starts at a little over 50 grand and goes up to 60K as well. Now, before we talk what it's like to drive this thing, let's take a look inside and talk about the interior space. Okay, so we're inside the Mazda CX-90. Now, I must admit, when you look at this cabin, you'll probably realize yourself that Mazda just crushed the competition in many different areas when it comes to the interior space. First of all, quality-wise, it's amazing. We have different types of textures, fabric, decent quality plastics, and it's just so nice to be in a car that's not designed around screens, but around usability. Seriously, the ergonomics and ease of use of this thing is just great. I know that the amount of buttons might seem overwhelming at first, but only seem, because once you learn what's where, you will be really happy that you have physical controls for things that you use frequently and you don't have to rely on a touchscreen. Now, unfortunately, no rose is without thorns, and one thing that Mazda could have done differently is interior storage, because this is probably one of the least practical family midsize SUV when it comes to storage solutions. Door pockets are big at first, but then you realize they're not super wide, so fitting larger bottles might be a problem. The center console also isn't super generous, including the area under the armrest, and when you get something like a Chevy Traverse or Toyota Grand Highlander, you'll just have more places to put your junk in it. But the CX-90 does shine when it comes to cargo area. It's very spacious and practical. We have mirror releases to drop the seats, so that's good, less things to break, and we still have a little bit of space left with all seats up, so no complaints there. I do have a little bit of complaints when it comes to second row though. It is okay and acceptable, but not crazy. When you move the seats up a little bit, the legroom becomes pretty small, but if you travel with kids, that's going to be a secondary thing. Now, you can choose between a bench or two captain's chairs in the second row, and when it comes to amenities, I don't think your passengers will complain. They have a third zone climate control, USB-C charging ports, sunshade, so all those things that you need in a family hauler. Now, the third row, as with most mid-size SUVs, is pretty average. Being 6'1", I can fit back there without many issues, but if you really need all that space, you just have to go full size and get something like a Tahoe or a Suburban. Now, moving up front, the seats are relatively comfortable, but they provide zero support, so something that is a hard pill to swallow in a sporty Mazda, because it is sporty. So I'm gonna head to our favorite back row right now and tell you exactly what it's like to drive the CX-90. Okay, so we are behind the wheel of the Mazda CX-90 Turbo S. Like I said in the intro, when it first came out, I loved the design, the fact that it's a rear-wheel drive platform, that we have straight six engines under the hood, but I was left with a little bit of bad taste in a way that it just felt like a half-baked product. So after being on the market for 2 years, did Mazda change anything? Well, let's find out. We can quickly put it into sport mode and talk about driving dynamics, because they are really, really good. First of all, the engine, plenty of torque. It has a little bit of hesitation in the beginning. It doesn't rev as quickly as the P58 and BMW, but that's obviously a benchmark in the segment. But it gets the job done, and it does feel like it has 340 horsepower. Good feeling on the brake pedal, no complaints there. Got some branches. Really direct steering and a steering rack that provides feedback. BMW, it is possible to tune an EPS that gives you feedback, and Mazda just did it fantastically. We have a great feel. We have an idea of what's happening with the front axle, and at the same time, thanks to the fact that it's a slower rack, we can easily make mid-corner corrections. And driving this 5,000-pound SUV is really, really fun. In tight corners, we can get it to rotate. It's a rear-biased all-wheel drive system. And wow, Mazda is really up to something here. But all that is secondary, because when you want to drive the car normally, you don't care about driving dynamics, and that's the area where the CX-90 still struggles, unfortunately. So first of all, let's talk about the powertrain tuning. The engine lacks the refinement of six-cylinder engines that Mercedes make or BMW make, and I'm totally aware of the fact that Mazda is a mainstream brand, but they have aspirations to become a little bit more. They want to bridge that gap from mainstream to premium, something that Volvo has done 2 decades ago. They're still not there yet. The transmission feels clunky. It's not your conventional torque converted unit. There is a clutch pack, and you can feel that, especially when the transmission shifts into first gear or shifts from first to second. There is noticeable lurch, and it's just not fully refined. It doesn't have that smoothness. Same with power delivery. There is always a little bit of hesitation. You have to wait for a turbo kick in. You get that assist from the mild hybrid system. But then when you go up the revs, you're like, something's missing. It doesn't have that ease of power delivery as you would expect from a straight six engine. So the tuning still has to be improved here. There are also some weird frequencies, low frequencies happening sometimes coming from the drivetrain. Not sure if it's a drive shaft or transmission, but when you're at lower RPMs, you'll feel some buzzing, and if it was only a problem with this particular car, I would be fine, but I experienced the same in the CX-90 that I drove a few years ago and the CX-70, so that's a problem. Mazda has to address it. Now, ride quality. As long as we're on a smooth pavement like that, it's fine. There's not much head toss, the body control is great, but once you get on rougher pavement, you'll see that this is a pretty firmly tuned suspension. Whenever we hit any potholes, expansion joints, you feel it all. It gets transmitted into the cabin, and that's the price you pay for a more sport-oriented suspension setup, which, when you look at it in a bigger picture, do you really need that in your family SUV? I love this as an enthusiast. Seriously, if I needed a 3-row family SUV, I would probably get the CX-90 because I can live with all of those things. But when you look at an average buyer, I don't know if they like the firm ride, the slow steering rack. They'll want something that's just comfortable. They're gonna get into a Palisade and be like, wow, this drives like a Rolls-Royce compared to the CX-90. And it does. At this point, Mazda either has to change dampers, ideally adaptive dampers, probably change some elements of the suspension design, maybe different bushings, spring rates. They have to do something because their broader audience will just not like the firmness. But besides that, it's a really well executed SUV. I really love the interior design and its ergonomics. Everything is within a reach, and after 2-3 days living with it, I know how to use it. If I want to disable my mild hybrid system, I can just click here. If I want to lower my temperature, I do it here. Put it up, right there. Control the infotainment system, get information about my fuel economy. Boom, it's all right there. It's super easy and intuitive. I don't have to think, I don't get distracted with simple tasks that we've been doing in cars forever. So huge kudos to Mazda for designing this car around the driver. They took a human-centric approach and it pays off. It's not frustrating experience whatsoever like with many other new cars. So yeah, they have a very strong product. The foundation is there. They just have to make some improvements to powertrain calibration and to the suspension setup. Once they do that, this is gonna be the best mainstream midsize SUV. So with that, let's head into the final thoughts and summarize this thing. Okay, so let's sum up the Mazda CX-90. As much as I love this thing, it still feels like an unfinished product. First of all, the powertrain. I know I cannot expect BMW or Mercedes levels of refinement, but for $50,000-$60,000, Toyota or Volvo do a better job with tuning their powertrains. The engine still doesn't deliver power very smoothly, is a little bit of lethargic off the line, and the 8-speed automatic transmission could use better programming. Same applies to the ride quality. It's not unrefined, but not the most comfortable one. And myself, as a car enthusiast, I love it. I like the raw feeling of this car, that it feels mechanical, that I have a steering that provides me some feedback, but I know many buyers in this segment will just not like that. They just have to make some tweaks to the suspension, maybe replace bushings, ideally give it an adaptive dampers, and this would be awesome. Now, even with all those things said, it doesn't eliminate the car. It's a still very attractive family SUV, has a great styling, awesome ergonomics, okay storage and the amount of space. But as I always say in my reviews, take it for a test drive compared with other vehicles, see in which one you feel the best and which one will fit your needs.